that I want you guys to really internalize and apply immediately, right? Because mindset is everything in business, right? I mean, mindset is everything in life, right? A lot of the times it's not what's happening to you, it's how you respond to it, right? And that's a constant work in progress for all of us. So, a couple of things that I want to highlight and talk about. So, as I sent a message out, right, we were going to talk about positioning in business. I could tell you that over the last couple of weeks, and this will be an ongoing thing, and it'll happen from time to time, right? And it's going to be your perspective and your confidence, right, and conviction that you have about our positioning in the industry as an agency and being very clear about our platform. Okay, so I'm going to touch on that. And then I also want to touch on the power of words, because when you are using certain words, they could have a tremendous difference in the outcome, right? And also the impression that you leave with people. One thing that I have that you can have. I hope you have it actually better than I've got it, right? Is I have undeniable, right, unshakable confidence. And the confidence that I have in this business comes from the direct correlation to a few things, okay? It's a direct reflection of the people that I talk to on a daily basis, okay? The books that I read on a daily basis, the podcast that I listen to on a daily basis, and keep in mind, right? Like I carve out time to read. Um, I find times to listen to podcasts here and there. Maybe not the entire. I may catch like 5 or 10 minutes, right? But it's just wanting to gain more value, right? And really wanting to um, create more value in my conversations, right? And the influence that I have on people, okay? And we all have this opportunity. So let me be very clear. There's nothing special in my DNA that separates me from you guys, right? This is my practice, right? My commitment to become a better person, right? You too can define, right, how you want to be better and in what areas of improvement you want to participate and commit to, right? And so we're going to talk about the words. And then the third thing, right, is the priorities of a winner, because I think you need to be very clear about your outcome and where you're currently at and where you plan on being, right? And I want to just acknowledge you guys. And I wish we could have had all the teammates on the call, right? Because priorities of a winner. You want to know? It also has to do with, right, what you're committed to, right? What meetings you attend, right? If we are in the process, which we are, of building a championship team and having a massive distribution where we're all in alignment, we're all a part of the same organization, we're all focused on a collective goal, which involves all of our individual goals, right? If this was, whether you like it or not, right? If this was the Los Angeles Lakers, okay, in the early 2000s, and Phil Jackson was the coach, and you had Kobe and Shaq, right, and all those other players on the squad, right, or this was like the 90s Chicago Bulls, right, and you just so happened to make the team, right, which is already an elite opportunity, right? You made the team. How would you show up to practice in the game? Would you prepare yourself to perform and to succeed in your role? Whether it was a starting role, whether you were coming off the bench, right? Or whether you were part of the practice squad. Because you guys all know, right? When the Lakers three-peated, when Chicago three-peated, right? When an organization wins a championship, everyone who's wearing a jersey wins, but everyone who's on the team plays a role, right, that contributed to the team's success, right? So your role is vital, right? And we want all of you to succeed. So I want to start off by talking about the positioning of our company, okay? So let me share my screen with you, so you guys can see this. Actually, hold on. Yeah, I pulled it up. Okay. All right. So let me share my screen. All right. Can you guys see this? Can I get a thumbs up from one of you? Yes? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Ursula. Thank you, Christina. I got all kinds of thumbs. Awesome. All right. So, Alexandra, did you want to ask something?
I just put my thumbs up because I saw.
Okay. I saw you raise your hand. All good. No worries. Thank you. I appreciate the digital participation. That was awesome. All right. So let's take a closer look at this, you guys, right? And I want to encourage you to take a screenshot, right? Just this way you can reflect upon this, okay? And you understand our platform and our positioning, because that's very, very key, right? Before I actually do this, let me welcome you guys, right? Ursula, welcome to the team call. Good to see you. Christina, welcome to the team call. Good to see you. Alexandra, good to see you. Welcome to the call. Susan, I know the iPhone now. Good to see you. Welcome to the call. Marino, good to see you, sir. Welcome to the call. Man, the man on fire in Chicago, Mr. Jones, good to see you. Welcome to the call. Doreen, hey, good to see you. Welcome to the call. Miss Valerie, good to see you. Welcome to the call, Mr. Jones, Harry Jones. Good to see you. And Miss Danny Byers. Hey, Danny, welcome to the call. All right, so franchise brokerage, financial services, network marketing. Okay, so let's talk about franchise. Here are the positives of owning a franchise business. Branding is already set up for you. My son lately has been saying that his goal is to buy a McDonald's franchise, right? And he wants to be a multi-millionaire, right? And I say, keep saying that every day, son, right? You want to, put out there to Jesus, to the universe, like, hey, can you make this happen, right? Right? We want to be consistent with that. But I bring that up because, branding is important, right? Why would someone want to purchase a McDonald's? Well, let me tell you why. Because it's already a well-oiled machine, right? The business already works. You don't even have a say on where you want to open up a location. You invest, right? I think it's $1.5 million of non-refundable cash. You go to Chicago and attend Hamburger University for 2 years to master the system. They choose a location for you, and you're now a franchise owner. But what's the guarantee? What's the safety in that? The safety in that is that after 5 years, guess what happens? You make on average about $200,000 to $250,000 a year, on average, right? Pretty amazing, right? Guaranteed system. You also have home office support, right? So you can always call corporate. I went to my gym is closed down for a week, the basketball gym within my gym. And, I'm very disappointed, but I was able to find a pivot, which I'm really excited about. But, I asked the manager, like, hey, what's the deal? What's the ETA? I keep hearing different things. And you know what they said? We have to refer back to corporate so we could, figure out what we're going to do at the gym, excuse me, moving forward, right? So they have home office support. Then you've got marketing and advertising that's already supplied for you, right? So when you buy a franchise like a Robex or a Jamba Juice, right? You notice all the Robexes and all the Jamba Juices are the same, right? They all have the same logo, the same menu, the same banners, right? The same design. So all of that is provided for you. Well, what's the negative? What's the con to owning a franchise? You're responsible for payroll. You got to have workers' comp. And there's a high cost for entry. Why is McDonald's not owned by a lot of people? Because most people don't have $1.5 million of non-refundable cash, right? It is what it is. Now let's transition into brokerage, right? What are the positives? Well, there's a broker to agent model, right? Just like in real estate. So if you're a broker or you're an agent, let me ask you guys a question, and anyone could come off of mute and answer. Who makes more money, the agent or the broker?
The broker.
That's right, the broker, because the agents have their licenses hung with the broker, and every time that they, let's say, sell a home, right, they get commission, and the broker gets a percentage as well, right? So that's a very successful business model. Well, what are some of the negatives? What are some of the cons, right? Best guy leaves, right? Imagine if I was, a real estate broker and you were all my real estate agents and Marino was killing it, like crushing it, number one agent in the agency. Marino takes me out to lunch and says, Oliver, I'm your number one guy. I want to be your partner. I want to be a co-broker. And I tell him respectfully, sorry, Marino, there's only one broker in this office and in my organization, and that's me. He's going to say, hey, man, no problem. Appreciate the lunch. Always good spending time with you. And he's out of here because he was very clear about his goals and visions, right? He wanted to be a broker. Another thing, like in real estate, for example, there's no system. Everyone has their own methodology to how they're going to sell the home, right? So there's no retention, right? Why is there no retention? There's no loyalty.
No.
There's no loyalty at all. And then there's no residual income. If you sold $1 million, or you sold enough real estate to make $1 million in 1 year, you would have to more than, right, do the same amount of production, right, just to make the same amount of money the following year, right? Because there's other moving parts and factors like inventory, for example, right? So moving right along, let's talk about financial services, a high paid industry. You know that last year we paid out, and you should have this in your verbal arsenal, right? We paid out over $1.1 billion in commissions. You should be very clear about that when you communicate that to other people about opportunity, right? I'm so grateful that I'm a part of an organization that has the kind of pockets to pay out 1.1 billion in commission. Okay. There's residual income. You get a chance to build your own book of business, and on those annual renewals for insurance, you get paid every single year on the same clients as long as they keep their policies in place, right? Residual income is fun. You have a very professional environment, right? The industry, the environment requires professionalism on all levels. And then you have great products, right? These products speak for themselves. People need retirement solutions. They need investments. They need estate planning. They need life insurance. They need long-term care, right? They need a tax-free investment strategy with no risk, okay? But what are the negatives? What are the cons? A lot of companies have quotas and they have minimums. And if you don't fulfill the quota and the minimum, you're put on probation. And if you still don't perform right at par, then guess what? See you later. Sayonara. Great knowing you, right? You got to go. You also have to come in full time with with nothing, with no promises, no expectations, right? Like nothing is guaranteed, right? Like I don't know, that's pretty tough for a lot of people. I can't imagine, when I got started coming into the industry full time with nothing promised. There's nothing I can say when rent is due, when mortgages are due, when cell phone bills are due, when utility, right? You can't say, hey, I didn't close a couple deals this week. Can you give me about 3 weeks to close some more deals? No, the due date is the due date, right? It's very cutthroat, right? It's crabs in the barrel. You have to watch your back. Even if you think you're in a safe place, you still got to watch your back because, your job is up for grabs. Your positioning is up for grabs. Maybe, your relationship with one person who has influence could easily be subject to change. In those environments, that is the reality. It's also a very dull environment, right? It's dry, it's cutthroat, not a lot of personality, not a lot of high energy, right? It just doesn't fire you up, right? I've never walked into a bank or I've never walked into a financial institution and said, man, it's pumping in here. I love the energy. It just doesn't happen, right? You can't build a team. In most companies, you cannot build a team. Some companies will tell you, like New York Life, for example, if you want to become a manager, you can override a team, but you can't personally produce. Well, how much fun is that, right? I don't want to rely just on overrides. I want to be able to go out there and personally produce. right? And then you've got organizations that only focus on one aspect of financial planning. It could be assets under management, it could be annuities, it could be strictly life insurance, right? I mean, think about like all of the different aspects, and then you got to be, in if you're with a particular company, you got to follow their business model, right? If you're thinking like, oh, I'd love to override and have like a team of 20. Well, if they don't do any type of recruiting or team building, you can't have that, right? 95% of financial service companies don't offer any ownership, right? I interviewed one time with Bankers Life. I do this once a year, right? I literally pick a company and I dissect their platform. This last year I did State Farm, right? But I'm sharing with you Bankers Life because that was a big standout for me. I went through the whole process. I really played it like I was looking for an opportunity, and I finally spoke to the district manager, right, who ran that particular region of the country. And I remember I was very clear. I said, hey, listen, if I decide, to go with you guys and you guys think I'm a good fit and we decide to partner up and I decide like I'm going to put in a good, solid, like Hall of Fame 20 years, well, I have an opportunity to own my own book of business. And you know what the lady said? She said, well, she was like, what we do is you basically reap the benefit of the business of the book of business that you built, but once you retire, we start to taper off that book of business, and by the time that fifth year comes up, right, of you being in retirement, your book at that point would have been fully transferred to another agent or advisor. Can you imagine if you put in 20 years into a company to then fall victim and fall into the trap of having your book of business that you built, right, slowly transferred to another agent? Crazy, right? 95% of companies are like that, okay? And then now let's talk about network marketing, right? And you may be thinking, well, why is this brought up amongst all these other amazing industries? Well, network marketing, they have a really great way of, building distribution and selling products. And you got to be very clear about that. It might not be our particular forte. Maybe it's not something that you're interested in, right? Because you just don't like kind of the way things are ran in network marketing. And that's fine. But a lot of the times, right, when you think about recruiting, when the general public thinks about recruiting, and I'm going to clarify and give you some clear perspective on recruiting, they tend to think about network marketing, right? Some of the vague responses that, you may hear or you may get is, oh, is this one of those things, right? I mean, it just sounds so ridiculous, right? But let's look at it for what it is. So when it comes to network marketing, here are the pros. You don't have a boss, right? That's a lovely thing, right? A lot of upbeat, positive energy. I mean, I don't care what you walk into, a vitamin company, health and wellness, groceries, whatever, legal advice, whatever the case may be, right? Smoothies, tea, right? You walk into an office or an environment where people are meeting up and the energy is through the freaking roof, right? Super, super high excited energy. Lot of recognition and a lot of incentives and trips, right? They did a study and amongst a list of things that people would love to have in the corporate world that they don't get, right? Which is what causes the change and the shift in profession. A lot of it is tied to recognition, right? I mean, even just getting a simple thank you, right, could really take someone a long way. I remember when I was in management and I worked for Whole Foods and another competitive grocery store. That was, my job before I got into financial services, and after I had failed in fashion, and overworked and underpaid, and I actually fulfilled the job description and did an amazing job, right? And we always had a lot of energy. We had a lot of fun. And I would always, some of the other managers of departments kind of felt like, God, like you guys are always laughing and there's a lot of energy. Like, are you sure you're getting your work done? And I would always say in reply, just look at the numbers, right? If you know anything about leadership and you know anything about leading a department, right? The morale of your department is everything. If people feel good, they do good, right? If you keep a light approach and you're still able to be effective and do a good job, you can get a lot of things done. And so I ran a very successful department, but you want to know something ironic? I mean, I can't even count on one hand how many thank yous I received through my 12 years, right? Of having that job. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. So, but let's look at the negatives, right? This is where a lot of people form negative opinions about network marketing and companies that have, product that they distribute, right? Very low profit margin. There are companies where the product can be amazing, but you're making like 10 cents, 25 cents, a dollar, $10, per sale. Now, I don't know how that sounds to you, but I'm going to assume that you and I are alike in this capacity. I can't become financially independent off of a $5 or $10 profit. I mean, that's a lot of products that I've got to sell and continue to sell, right? To even go, okay, I made some decent money this month, right? I mean, I just helped one client, right? And I made over $5,000. You know how much product I'd have to sell if I was a part of a network marketing company to make $5,000? I just had to help one client, right? As an example. You have to recruit a lot of people. That's the only way that you can really crack into, six figures. Like I had a meeting one time with a guy who was trying to recruit me to Amway. And I was willing to meet with him just to network, and see if there was an opportunity for referrals. And I gave him my divided attention, right? Because he was the mentor of one of my friends growing up. And so my buddy called me and said, hey, can you take a meeting? I'm excited about this new venture that I'm a part of. I said, of course, no problem. So they come to my office, they do a presentation. I said, you guys got a lot of good products and whatnot. I said, let me ask you a very straightforward, clear question. May I? And the guy's name was Brandon. I'll never forget him. And he goes, yeah, no problem. I said, let's just say I didn't want to recruit and I thought this was a good enough opportunity for me to allocate some time. Maybe I did it part time, to complement what I'm doing in financial services. And all I did was sell products. Can I make six figures with you? And he was so crystal clear and did not hesitate, not even a second. And he said, no. He was like, if you want to get to six figures and beyond, right, you need to have a team, right? The whole focus with our platform is to build a team, right? So you have, hundreds of people selling products that you get a chance to override the production. And in my mind, I thought like, wow, that would be a lot of product that I would have to sell. But then that would take a lot of effort to recruit people to an opportunity where the profit margin was like $1, $5, $10, sometimes 10 cents, 20. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty crazy to wrap my mind around that. So I said, okay, well, I appreciate the time. I'll give it some thought, and I'll let you know. And I just told him, I said, I appreciate the time, but I just need to stay focused in this lane because, what I make off of helping a client, on the financial service side, I just, it's not even fair to compare, right? And if I didn't recruit one person in our business, I'll do fine financially. And I want to be very clear with that message with you guys. You may not recruit one person, right, in your time here. And if you're consistent with connecting and reaching out and sitting down with folks and addressing their financial needs, and offering them products and closing business, and you just mastered that, right, you will have the ability to make six and seven figures without a doubt. And the good news is that that book of business that you will build will be yours, right? So you will create residual income and passive income for the rest of your life. You just got to make sure that you keep your license intact and then obviously, service your clients maybe once a year. And you could do that and live very comfortably, right? You can't do that in network marketing, right? You got to buy inventory in order to resell and create that profit margin. Sell the money first, right? So, what happens too in a lot of network marketing companies, you do get paid to recruit, right? Um, and you could look at it any way that you like. Could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, whatnot. But like in our industry and financial services and in real estate, um, franchise, right? You don't get paid to recruit. You just offer someone an opportunity. They either seize the moment and say, you know what, I want to get into real estate. Yeah, I think I want to get into financial services. And then they have to go acquire a license, right? And then their license has to be hung with an agency, right? Or a broker of some sort. And then you got to get appointed, right? By product providers. So there's a whole process, right? And method to the actual industry just in order for you to set yourself up and now have a legal right opportunity to create income through the products and services. So I want to just kind of leave some time before we move on, and I wanted to just kind of have an open discussion with you guys about that because again, like I said, knowing your position in business is critical. We were on a call this morning, Derek and I, with one of his prospects, and her big concern, right, was there's a lot of I've seen a lot of things about WFG, for example, and I said, well, there's a lot of negative things about a lot of companies, and I'm not one to say whether or not someone is lying or not because obviously if there was a complaint, that means someone had an experience, right? But let me be very clear with you, as I told the lady. I said, World Finance Group is our administrative and marketing division. That's it. There are no products whatsoever, no insurance, no investments, nothing. They just make sure that on the licensing side, everyone licensed in their resident state is up to par from a compliance standpoint, right? Because we're a licensed industry. They also make sure that we get paid by the product providers, right? And we set up our direct deposit so we can get those direct deposits twice a week, right? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of administrative stuff that needs to be in place, right? And so that's that. I said, what I have found in my research and in conversation is that people have an issue with the company, not because of the process or the back office. A lot of the times it comes down to leadership, right? You don't know initially, in a lot of cases, who you're coming into business with on a bigger level. Someone might have introduced you to this opportunity. You saw it to be a great fit and you wanted to give it like a legitimate shot and try and put forth the effort to create success. But you would have never known that the person that brought you in, the guys that you report to, right, whether they're good or not, right? You just never know. But I will tell you with confidence, right? And you could even, talk to some of the other people in our organization. I've been in this business for 17 years. You can look me up on FINRA, the SEC, right? You'll see that my broker check is clean. I have zero customer complaints, right? I take pride in what I do. I was trained to always do right by the client, and this is a part of our business philosophy. Well, the same goes, right, for our associates. So one thing that you guys will get from me is I'm going to teach you and share with you and ensure that you will be very clear and you can clearly communicate who you're in business with and what we do for the consumer, right? And when you have that in place, are you kidding me? Game over. There's nothing that someone could say to you that would offer any kind of doubt, right? I was talking with Danny earlier and she needed some things, right? And I sent it over and she was like, hey, thanks so much for your help. Because, my commitment to her, as it is with all of you guys, is I'm here to help. So if you need something, like reach out to me and let me know, right? Because I take pride in that because I'm running a business, right? This is not just something that you do that you would say, oh, it's just a little hobby, I go to jump rope class once a week. No, like we're out there like correcting an injustice. So I take this very, very serious, right? And I think the more serious you take something, people will see that and they'll start to take you serious. You follow me on that, right? But if you don't take this business serious and you're not very clear about who we are as a company and our positioning, and how we compare to other industries respectfully, then you will get annihilated by the haters and the doubters and the naysayers. They will chew you up, right? You will be flesh to the piranha, right? They will destroy you. So that's why I always recommend and suggest to you guys that you're very clear, right, in our positioning. So let's open up the meeting now. Anyone have any questions, comments, or feedback in regards to anything that I touched on so far? We'll do our rounds. Ursula, any questions, comments, feedback?
No questions.
Okay. Susan Burgess, questions, comments, feedback?
No, sir, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Danielle Byers, questions, comments, feedback?
No, thank you.
Okay. Valerie Zenta.
No question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Harry Jones, any questions, comments, feedback? Once a month, my friend, once a month at least. Doreen, any questions, comments, feedback?
Just to say that you're true about the network marketing piece. I've been in that arena several times, and that's why.
Again, respectfully, but objectively. You just call it like it is. It is what it is, right? It's not a bad business model. I just want to be very clear with you guys, just to kind of follow what Doreen said. It's not a bad business model. There's just a lot of miscommunication about those particular business models, and they sell it so high, right? I think people would have more success if they knew in advance what they were getting into, right? I really do. Alexandra, questions, comments, feedback?
Just like, what's the best way to present the product to the client, to alleviate any of their concerns that they might have, or rather, what have you run through that you've seen people have been more concerned about?
I'm going to answer the question and tie the answer into both parts of your question. Okay. So here's what I know. People see value based on how you present value. Okay. So what do I value? I value education. I also value people's time. So I could tell you that the old Oliver used to take way too much time getting to the point. The new Oliver is still very clear about the communication, but I'm very quick when it comes to getting to the point, right? And so what I bring to the marketplace is exactly what I promote on our dinner, Alexandra. You see this almost every day when you attend, right? And I love your consistency, because let me just give you a little bit of credit there, right? By you attending, whether you have a guest or not, you're listening to me, you're internalizing my presentation, and once you start to do the presentation, I wouldn't be surprised if you were not too far off from doing the presentation almost to the exactness, right? This is what consistency will bring you, right? And so what I tell people, we have a 3-step approach. Number 1, we educate. We teach people how money works. Number 2, we offer free customized financial planning. And number 3 is the product placement, right? And when it comes to specializing, right, I had a conversation with Natasha earlier this morning, and she was telling me she was at this big event. There was a lot of people. She was getting numbers. She was like, I'm having a little challenge because I'm calling them and I'm talking to them about life insurance, right? And I was going to talk to you a little bit about the words with this example, but I'm just going to share this example because it kind of ties in. And she said, I was saying, the importance of life insurance, and, there's so many people that don't have it, right? And I said, I appreciate your passion, right? I appreciate your excitement. But let me give you some perspective, and you tell me, if I approached you, right, and I just met you and I followed up with a phone call, what would you be more inclined to have an interest in, okay? So I said, okay, Natasha, it was great meeting you. I'd love to talk to you about life insurance and how important life insurance is. and why you need life insurance. Okay? That's my first approach. My second approach is, hey Natasha, it was so great meeting you. Hey, just a real quick question for you. Do you have a tax-free, do you have a tax-free investment strategy with no risk? So I'm going to ask you, Alexandra, if I approached you with those two ways, right, what would you be more inclined to want to focus on? Life insurance or a tax-free investment strategy with no risk? I can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
I said a tax-free strategy with no risk.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
Let me dig a little deeper and paint the obvious, right? Okay, I want you guys to take this in. Life insurance, when we buy life insurance, guess what? It's for someone else. Are we on the same page with that?
Yeah.
It's for someone else, right? If God forbid, knock on wood, I pass away prematurely, I'm no longer here to support my family, I know that a lot of money is going to go to Jamie to support her and Phoenix and our family, right?
Yeah.
For them, okay? What are most people thinking about day in and day out? When they're looking at the marketplace, whatever the product may be, here's what they're thinking about. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
You guys with me on that, right? What's in it for me? Well, if I had to ask you, in thinking about what's in it for you, out of those two examples, the tax-free investment strategy with no risk is for you.
Exactly, yeah.
The life insurance is for the loved one, but the investment is for me. So understanding what people are looking for, it's easy for us to tailor our approach and go, let me focus on what's in it for you.
Got it.
And through the process of educating, okay, right? Follow me on this. This is where the education comes in. Hey, of these three tax brackets, would you want to pay taxes now, later, or never? Just role play with me.
Never.
Okay, there's two options, Alexandra. You can get a Roth IRA. Here's the list of things that identify this is a Roth IRA. Let me explain to you the other option. So it's an index investment strategy. There's no risk involved, and you can get up to a double-digit return any given month. But you want to know something, Alexandra? Of all the things in financial services that are available for us to invest our money in, guess where this strategy is placed in? Life insurance. You know why? Because what most people do not know is life insurance is something that the IRS cannot tax. When you drop that nugget on people's brains, they go, oh my God, I had no idea.
The more you know.
The more you know. So then all of a sudden, you guys, the conversation opens up, and now they're like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
And then once you just follow that statement with it's this, and this, and you got all these 5 things, right? You got the life insurance, the tax-free savings, the long-term care, the living benefits. I was talking to Danny. Remember, Danny, you told me you were at the birthday party, you're talking to your friend, and you say, you can get all this in one product. The guy almost jumped out of his pants. He's like, what? I can't believe this, right? And now she's setting up an appointment to meet with him and his wife, right? So again, right, I always lead with a question to intrigue, right? And then I follow it up with, well, here's what it is.
Okay.
And people appreciate that. And you don't have to keep someone on the phone or on a Zoom for an hour. Just ask the question and get right to the point, and they will appreciate it. They will see a lot of value in that, right? So thank you for asking that. Mr. EJ, Elliot Jones, any questions, comments, feedback about what I shared?
No, just I want to add to what you were saying. Just the marketing aspect of it. You almost kind of got to know, like, you know, you do a lot of appointments with me, and I hardly ever talk about death benefit because that particular individual, of course, just like you said, you have to find out what you can do for the person because that's the reason you even talking to them. I mean, it'll come across how important their family is. That's still always an added benefit. But I would just always lead with the living benefit for that person to be an experience because most people don't even understand. They from a deaf standpoint, some people don't even care. It's unfortunate, but they don't care. So you kind of want to focus on what's in it for them, and
Yeah.
that's what'll give you attention.
Absolutely, for sure. Marino, questions, comments, feedback. Thank you.
No, you did a great job and enjoy the conversation tonight. Very informative.
Fantastic. Palma, questions, comments, feedback. You're good. Okay, perfect. All right. So now let's move on. All right. So I want to talk to you a little bit about words, right? Because using the right words could make a massive difference in the results and the outcome that you're receiving. Okay. So let me give you some things to think about. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to replace words, right, with better words, right? Because understanding the psychology, right, of how people respond is very important. So let me give you an example. EJ and I talk about this a lot, right? And it came up in a conversation with Natasha this morning, and I shared the example, right? Rather than saying life insurance, right, or policy, for example, what I will say is I will say an insurance contract, right? And you may be thinking like, okay, that's cool, right? But I promise you, and I will tell you with my experience, that if you tested the waters, right, and you started talking and you started using the word policy a lot, right, people are going to have a natural reaction to that, right? And they're going to bring up their opinion and feelings about life insurance, right? And to EJ's point, right, unfortunately, we live in a society where there's a percentage of people that just really don't care, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of appointments that you guys will have where you're going to sit there and a parent is going to say, I'm not trying to leave my kid a lot of money. I just want to make sure that my kid is good when they become an adult. But once they become an adult and they have a career, like I've kind of already done my job. It's now their opportunity to create whatever they want out of life. I don't want to leave them with a lot of money. So they automatic. There's just like a disqualified feeling towards insurance. Like, no, I'm not really into the insurance aspect, right? Again, they're always thinking about what's in it for them, right? And so when you use the word contract has more ties to two parties coming together and agreeing to doing business together, right? And so when you use that word, for example, there are two parties that are joining together and say, yes, I agree to do business with you based on what you have presented. I see value in that, and I would like to have that particular product, right? Very important. Let me give you another word, right? Or just some language that you need to be sensitive to. So from a recruiting standpoint, right? From a, broker to agent relationship, right? That we have, upline, downline, hierarchy, right? SMD, senior associate, right? All this internal, right, verbiage that we use, I want to ensure you guys, right, that you really want to stay away from that language when you're talking to other people, okay? Like, if I'm introducing, let's say I'm the associate, right, and Christina's my broker, okay? And I asked Christina in advance, hey, Christina, can you take me out? Can I take you with me on this appointment? Because your level of expertise really matches well to this particular prospect. And I don't know if I'm able, right, to have that kind of conversation. And she goes, yeah, of course, no problem. So we go on this appointment, right? And let's say we're meeting with Doreen, right? And I'm bringing this to Doreen for the first time. and I said, hey, Doreen, thanks so much for taking the time to meet. I just wanted to introduce you to my upline, Christina. That has a very strange, very weird, very like one of those things feeling and vibe. Most people don't know what that is. Most people, when they hear that, it's like, oh, it's one of those things, right? And they just kind of want to stay away. So what would you replace like upline with? Hey, Doreen, thanks for taking the time. I want to introduce you to my mentor, right? I want to introduce you to my business coach. This is my business coach, Christina Palmer, right? You want to make sure that when you edify someone, that you are establishing credibility to the highest degree, right? Hey, this is my mentor, Ursula Cato. Ursula's been in the business for 15 years. She's a wealth of knowledge. She's helped tons of clients throughout the California area and in different states. She's one of the top women in our firm. And I'm so grateful that Ursula is not only my business coach, but Ursula, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit with me and my friend Danny, right? Like when the person hears that level, right, that high level of edification, credibility and trust is established immediately, right? And when you're in that particular exchange, what the message that you're sending to that prospect is that, hey, I'm bringing someone who is an expert in this field, who knows what they're doing, who knows what they're talking about, who I am working with to establish a level of consistent success in this industry with, right? I love giving examples. So Danny and I were on an appointment last week with one of her friends, right? Very smart guy, okay? Very successful guy, right? And it's funny because I don't know if you remember this, Danny, but he kind of like gave himself a shot, right? He was like, well, like I'm a creative. If my brother was here, he's very technical and very business minded. And it was like, wait a minute, but you're very successful. So clearly you know what you're doing as well, right? But there was a lot of like, meticulous details and perspective that this client was bringing up, right? I mean, we really went really in, right? And, we even had to pivot, right, towards the end of the meeting and kind of draft up a different scenario. And it just turned out like that's the scenario that he's going to go with, right? And I remember, right, to your credit, it was cute because we all go through this at the beginning stages, right? But I remember I talked to Danny, she goes, so you sure he's going to become a client, right? And I was like, without a doubt, there's no question, no hesitation, right? And when you're a new associate, you might hear your mentor say that and you might go, well, how do they know? Like, how do you know, right? But you get to a place when your competence is so superior and your confidence matches the knowledge that you have, a lot of the times that's what people buy. I was watching this, I love watching real estate shows, right? These reality shows that's based on real estate, right? So I'm watching this show last night on Netflix, not to go on a tangent, but I want to really highlight this point. And the guy like built this big, massive agency, right? Like he sold Drake his $65 million home in LA, right? And so there's a lot of mentees, right, that are new to real estate that are on different teams, kind of very similar, right? Where like, there's new people on our team, right? Some people have been around for a while, right? And a lot of you guys are up and coming, right? And I'm your broker, I'm coaching, mentoring you, right? And so, the big boss, the owner of the company came and he basically did like a shadow, like a mock, like, okay, sell me this home that we're in, right? And, his assessment at the end when he was talking to the guy who's leading that team, he said, you got some great people on your team. He was like, but what's missing, and I know you're going to help with this, is 95% of the time, you know what really closes the deal? And this is in this business, you guys. And I want you to be very clear and take this to heart, okay? And really internalize this. You want to know what's going to close the business 95% of your time? It's going to be your confidence about what you're saying. People buy confident, and they also buy competence. They buy value, they buy education, right? A successful real estate agent doesn't go and say, oh, let me show you this home. 4-bedroom, 3-bath, nice kitchen, it's got a decent sized background. Walk around, take a look, let me know what you think. That's a poor performance, right? A good real estate agent, like, I'm not a real estate agent, but I think, like, if I did my due diligence and homework, I could be world freaking class. I'm going to go and say, this house was built in 1945. Some of the prior owners were this family, right? Man, let me talk about some of the architecture. It's got this, modern design. This wood was imported from Peru, right? These marble countertops are like elite. Like, I'm going to get into a lot of detail and description about the entire house, right? Along with painted picture, like what an entertaining, kitchen. It's got this steel appliance, right? You guys get the point, right? So when you're like sitting with a client, right, you got to really be very clear about breaking down the product, not overwhelming them with information, but just bringing value around the benefits, right? And knowing specifically how the benefits work so you can articulate, but also keep it very simple, if that makes sense. You guys follow me on that, right? There's an art to that, right? And the requirement to get really good at that is just being consistent, having these conversations with people over and over and over again, right? So you could really fine tune your skills. All right. So yeah, now when it comes to the words, right, I want to give you guys like 2 specialties, right? Because specialization is key, right, to your position in business. So I specialize in tax-free investment strategies with no risk. Okay? This is your specialization, right? You specialize in tax-free investment strategies with no risk. You'll get a lot of interest if you just like learn that script, okay? The other thing I specialize in is showing people how to preserve and accumulate more for retirement. Preserve and accumulate more for retirement. Preserve, right? The preservation of wealth. Essentially, that means no risk, all right? There's no risk. In the retirement accumulation, there's higher rates of return, right? If I wanted to even dumb down that verbiage, on the retirement side, I show people how to make money and eliminate the risk. I show people how to make money and eliminate the risk, right? Simple, easy, right? I want you guys to get really clear and really master the words, right? Here's another comparison, right? Hey, Ursula, how you doing? Listen, I don't know if I told you, but I'm in financial services, and I would love to book an appointment with you. I think you're going to really like, all of the products that I'm offering now, from insurance to retirement, estate planning. So many people need this stuff, and yeah, I just want to see, if this is something that you might be interested in. That's the wrong way to book an appointment. You may logically be thinking, well, that's what we do, right? But let me explain to you and give you something a little more easier to digest. You ready? Hey, Ursula, how you doing? We do the small talk. Hey, man, I'm so excited about this new industry that I'm working in, and I would love to put some information into your hands and get your opinion. Are you free for 15 minutes to jump on a Zoom this week? I would love to put some information into your hands and get your opinion. Are you free for 15 minutes to jump on a Zoom? I'm not talking about life insurance. I'm not talking about retirement. I'm not talking about estate planning. I'm not talking about debt. Nothing. I'm excited about this new industry I'm working in. I'd love to put some information into your hands and get your opinion. Are you free for 15 minutes this week to jump on a quick Zoom? Simple, you guys. Less is more. That's good. That's something that you have to literally train your brain to memorize and master, right? And remind yourself of, is that less is more. Naturally, human nature, we learn something and we learn more and more and more about it. You know what we tend to do? Our tendency is to want to talk about everything that we learn, right? And to go into a lot of detail, right? You got to be very smart about giving people, little appetizers, right? Little samples, right? When you go to like a deli, right? And they got all these salads and you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. That looks good. That looks good. Hey, can I get a sample of that? Hey, can I get a sample of that, right? That's the mentality that you want to have, right? When you're dealing with the public and you're dealing with people. You just want to give them a little sample, right? That's why I like the questions, right? There's a book that I would recommend that you guys invest and look into. It's called Questions Are the Answers by Alan Pease, right? Phenomenal book. It's like this thin. You can get it on Amazon for like $2, $3, maybe $5, $10, right? Depending on what copy, right? Whether you want it new or used. But it's called Questions Are the Answers, right? And being able to formulate a very simple question can lead you to the answer that you're looking for and someone that is intrigued enough to want to book an appointment with you. Right? Really simple, okay? So,
Oliver, who was the author?
Alan Pease, Allenpease, Alan Pease. Just look it up on Amazon, okay? And the last thing I want to give you, right, is I want to give you just a list of priorities, right? Priorities of a winner, okay? And this is what I'll close with, right? Because I don't want to go too far over, okay? All right, number one, right? I want to refer to something that I shared on social media. I ran across this and I was like, ooh, that's so good. And I just wanted to put it out there. And I want to read it to you guys because it really kind of spoke volumes to me, okay? So here we go. So I said, dreams without goals will eventually fuel disappointment. Your dreams require discipline, commitment, and consistency. Without commitment, you'll never start. And without consistency, you'll never finish. And there's so much truth to that, you guys, right? And so when I think about like priorities, right? Well, I want to prioritize success. I want to prioritize winning. So here's what that looks like, right? Is number one, and I'm going to take this from one of my mentors in the business, and I'm going to give this to you guys to open this up. You got to show up to blow up. And that's the God honest truth, right? You got to schedule in success, right? We are all really considered a volunteer army. You're not required to show up to any of these trainings. You're not required to reach out to people. You don't have to worry about quotas, right? Or any micromanagement or pressure to perform, right? But here's the thing. When you're thinking about the mindset of an employee and you're thinking about the mindset of a business owner, an employee shows up, clocks in, and just does the job, right? Because they know that there's an exchange of time and money. And this is how most employees operate, generally speaking, right? But when you're a business owner, right, the doors of your business will not open unless you show up. So in order for you to beat the competition and create success, you got to set your alarm. You got to wake up early. You got to make sure you have a plan when you wake up. Like I wake up, I get ready. Let's say you have kids, like I feed the pets, I get the kids ready, I drop the kids off at school, I got my breakfast smoothie, I'm on the road. I know it's going to take me 30 minutes to get to my business. I'm going to open the door. I have a certain system to opening up my business. I'm going to turn on the lights. I'm going to turn on the music. I'm going to turn on the computer, right? I'm going to open up my business, right? And then I'm going to start running my business at the wee hours, right? And I'm going to stay open and maximize my day, right? And so, showing up is the biggest, first, and most important step to you succeeding, right? Well, what do you have to show up to? Now, we have hierarchy meetings every Monday, right, at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. So that's 11 o'clock, right, in the morning Central Standard Time. And that's 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. Every Monday, right? Showing up gets you involved in the environment. It gets you around the winners, right? It puts you in the circle, right? You start to get exposed. And the more exposure that you have to a business and to a company like ours, the better you do, right? Because you're around everyone else that's doing the business with you, whether you have a relationship with them or not, right? So I want to encourage you guys, if you can, right, based on your availability and schedule, to start plugging into our hierarchy calls every Monday, right? I think it would be great, even if you could just listen. Not mandatory, not a requirement, but I want to recommend that you do it, right? These Monday trainings, right? Showing up to the team training, right? Going back to the analogy, if you had an opportunity to be on a championship team, right, and that was already a blessing within itself, how would you show up to practice? How would you show up when it was game time, right? Would you be ahead of schedule? Would you put in all your effort when you had the practice? So this way, when it was game time, you could perform and do very, very well, right? Would you take time out of your day-to-day schedule to work on your skill set so you could be that much better, right? Every summer that I went to a summer basketball camp, I got better. And I knew a lot of my peers in high school didn't work on their game in the summer. And every time I came back, right, around September, right, and we were doing tryouts or we were just scrimmaging, I was killing them on the court. Every year I got better. It's because I practiced on my game, right? So you got to look at this the same way. You got to practice on your game. You got to take time out to call the product providers and talk to the sales department and call these other companies that we're in alignment with, right? And you got to educate yourself. You can't put your success on someone else's lap. You got to take your own success and take forth the initiative, right? And get yourself involved, right? So being on these team meetings is critical. It's critical to your commitment to the team. It's critical to your development, right? I mean, it's so important. You also want to show up to the trainings that we have, right? We have trainings on Wednesdays, and I know it's tough for some of us, right? But Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right? 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, right? If you could just plug in and listen, here's the thing. If you kind of decompress and, you want to just kind of chill and take it easy, hey, do that. I find my time to decompress as well, right? But hey, if you had a goal in mind and you were focused, right? And you were driven and you wanted to fulfill that goal, you got to make a decision. Is it Netflix and chill, or is it plugged into another training so I can learn more and become better in business? Right? So we have trainings on Wednesdays. We also have trainings on Saturdays. So Wednesday night is just a little too late for you. Let's say you're on East Coast Standard Time like me. That's okay. But are you on every Saturday training? Right? Are you building some consistency, right? And some commitment, right? The commitment to get started, to be engaged, to be involved, right? To participate. The consistency, right? Even when you don't feel like it, you're going to have those times when you just don't feel like getting on training. And you know what's so funny about that? Is that those are the actual trainings that you really need to be on. Because there's probably something that you can't predict that you need to hear to just change your mindset, to change your perspective. someone's being highlighted. You're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I got a chance to hear from them. I would have never picked up this, nugget if I wasn't on the meeting, right? So these are some of the things that you want to really commit to, right? When it comes to like your goals, right? You want to set goals, your weekly goals, right? And I love the accountability. How many contacts are you making? How many appointments are you booking, right? How many people are you recruiting, right, to the agency and on your team? And how many applications are you submitting? See, even if you're reporting zeros every day, I don't know when, right? I went through this, right, at times in my business too. I don't know when, but there's going to come a point, right? And it could happen sooner than later. Hopefully it does, okay? There's going to come a point when you keep putting your numbers up and you stay committed to the accountability, and then you just start to get really sick and tired of just putting up donut holes. And it just pushes you to want to do a little more, right? Say, I'm going to make one more phone call, right? I'm going to reach out to one more person. When I go out, I'm going to prospect one. I'll be in there. I'll come and say that, right? I need to prospect one more person, right? It's going to push you to do just a little bit more. And if you stay consistent with that little bit more, it's going to get even better over time, right? And slowly but surely, you're going to start reporting, right? I remember, like, I would see people in the office and they would have like 12, 15 appointments, and I'd have like 4, 5, or 6, right? I remember those days, right? And I'm like, man, I gotta break double digits. Like, oh, I can't believe this. Like, I was the king at like 6 appointments a week. I was consistent with those 6 appointments, but I was like, I gotta get double digits because I knew the numbers, right? For every 12 appointments, 8 will hold, 5 will do, take some information, 3 clients, 1 recruit, right? I gotta get to 12. And then once I broke, double digits and I stayed consistent with 12 appointments, now I'm up to about 25 or 30 appointments minimum a week, right? That's the leverage and power of having a team, right? Things are a lot easier for me, right? And so, you want to stay committed and consistent to that, right? To like booking appointments, right? Not having any energy and focus on the outcome. You just want to focus on booking the appointment, letting the presentation create the opportunity for the person that you're meeting with, right? And if you do enough appointments, you'll get enough results. You get enough results, you're making enough money, right? Maybe there's never enough, but you get the point, right? You're consistently producing and creating opportunity for yourself, right? And so in closing, I want to just remind you of one thing, okay? And I'm going to keep repeating myself with this one thing, okay? For every 10 licensed agents that you have on your team, if each licensed agent just helps one client, or maybe a combination of 2 if you need to, but each one of your agents submits $350 in insurance premium per month, okay, which is not a lot, right? Just per month. That could be just one client, right? You got 10 licensed agents that are doing that every single month, you're making 6 figures. A very simple goal. Could you do that without the licensed agents? You could. How do you do that? With a lot of volume, right? Because some will, some won't. And you just got to look for the person, right? The person that's going to say yes, right? But if you want to make it easier and you want to get to 6 figures faster, as you're helping clients, because there's going to be a lot of people that you help, they just want to be clients, and that's okay. But simultaneously, you want to focus on building your book of business, and you also want to build your licensed, trained field force. That's the blueprint to long-term massive success, you guys, right? And so all you need to do this month is just start with 1. That's it. Identify 1 new person that's going to come into business with you. There's no pressure around 1. It's the first number, right? Just get 1. And then if you're up for the challenge, Then you get your new business partner, a new agent. Say, we got to get you at least one person this month, right? And here's what's going to happen, right? You're going to start to create momentum, and you're going to start to actually build your team. And what you're going to do to create profit is for every agent that comes in the business and is on your team, you're going to make them a client. You're going to write up an IUL for them, right? And so that's how you build the simultaneous will, right? It's not one or the other. When you recruit, you make the recruit a client. Boom, 24 to 48 hours. Simple, right? It's the conversion that creates the massive explosion. You guys got that? Right? It's the conversion, recruiting, and then making that new recruit a client. That's the conversion that will create a massive explosion. So again, thank you guys for your time. Great to spend time with you. Good to see you. I'm going to start doing this particular training a little more often than less, right? Because I think it's always good to know the positioning that we have in business in regards and in comparison to other industries, right? And, you know, I'm going to bring this up so I can just kind of show you one more time. We're a hybrid of these four, just to let you know. Some of you might have caught that, right? You get a chance to own your own franchise, essentially, right? Because you get a chance to build your own agency. We have the broker to agent model. That is our business model, right? Is a broker to agent model, because we don't get paid to recruit. I recruit people all the time, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be successful. They got to get licensed. They got to go through training, right? And then obviously we work in financial services. But here's the good news, right? There's no boss. I'm not your boss. I'm your mentor. I'm your business coach, right? We have a lot of fun. You walk into the meeting, the music is pumping, right? There's music from all over the world. And we give a lot of recognition, right? We love to recognize people. We want everyone to feel good and be positive and be supportive and be empowered, right? I can't wait till everyone on our team is making six figures and beyond, right? To where like someone new comes on our team and like all of you guys are like, hey, you know, you're not really on our team until you're making six figures, right? Just as a joke, right? But also to reflect upon all the success that's happening, right? I want people to come on our team and go, man, I love being a part of this team. We're united. The energy is great. We always get value. We're always getting better. We're always making money. We're always helping families, and we're always winning, right? That's a great culture and a great environment to be a part of. So thanks again for your time, you guys. I really appreciate it. Sorry for going over, but I'm glad we had this talk. Have a fantastic evening. Take care.